Today it's one of those Pandora's boxes of topics. Will we actually come to some kind of conclusion to answer the age-old question? Is it possible to live a balanced life with twinnies? I am joined today by my good bestie, Siekeia, and I don't know, we're going to find out if she's figured it out. She has her puppies running around, being watched by somebody, but she's working from home right now. And I wish I had the natural light that she has in her room. I have natural light envy right now. But Siekeia, thank you for playing with us today.
Thank you. I'm so
Uh,
happy to be here.
Now, you have your hands full. You have your twinnies, which are still teeny tiny, little tots, well, not so teeny tiny. And you got an older puppy as well.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
tell us a little bit of the behind the music. When did you find out that there was two in there? Were you shocked like pretty much everybody in the history of twinnies? Even if you have 19 sets of twins in your family, everybody is still surprised by that. But how did you get to come play with us in our twin universe?
So I definitely was shocked. So we, I remember just like it was yesterday. Um, me and my husband, we wanted another child, right? We planned to do two. That was our goal. And I went to the doctor, became pregnant. I went to the doctor, and she's like, "Well, my doctor knows me because she did, delivered our first child." She's like, "Well, she asked me, she was literally had the ultrasound thing going. She's like, well, what kind of car do you guys have? And I'm like,
That's
why,
hysterical.
why are you asking me this? Like, I promise I missed it. It went over my head. She's like, what kind of car are you driving in, Siekeia? I'm like, why? I'm like, a Nissan Rogue. She's like, oh, you're going to need a bigger car. And I'm like, what are you implying? She's like, oh, there's two heartbeats. And I'm like, excuse me, two heartbeats. So, and it didn't really resonate when she said it. And I'm like, I think I was in denial for a while. Like, I probably was in denial until I actually saw
Yeah.
um the them on when they got bigger, right? As I grew and they got bigger, probably like 6 months in, I was in denial, like, this has to be a mistake, right?
It
But
is.
yeah,
It's so funny how that never gets old to me, and I think it's quite comical that we're all so shocked. But I think especially for our moms that have a singleton already, everybody just assumes that you're just going to have another singleton. And as I was saying to Siekeia before we started, I feel like there was like a pandemic side effect was a spontaneous multiple birth,
yeah,
because the amount of people when in Twiniversity right now that have a parent spare, you could tell because we actually just added the Twiniversity class recently that is for if you're expecting twins after a singleton. So we have a class just for that now because now we're like, okay, this is
that's
no
great.
longer a coincidence. Something is happening. But today I want to talk about how you're cracking the code on this. So the babies are 10 months old. You work from home. Do you work from home full time? As
Yes.
many of us are doing in this pandemic, and you're raising your older child. Is this really possible? How the heck are we going to do this? How do you find the time to do things? And do you feel that your life is balanced?
Oh, that is such a really good question. And in short, I would say it's not possible to balance every single thing, right? Good news is there are ways that you can set priorities and prioritize different things at different moments.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the best thing that can contribute to balance is figuring out what those different things are, whether it's week to week, right, day to day, and month to month. I think that's the approach that I've been using, and I found to be successful thus far.
Well,
And I think
it's forever evolving too. So as the kiddos get bigger and their sleep schedules change, and then you're going to throw in potty training down the line, there's always going to be something that's kind of off, right?
yeah,
And then you just kind of have to figure it out. When you were expecting the twinnies and they still weren't here yet, did you think about, okay, how am I going to do this? And what steps did you take to try to set it up for yourself once they were here? like when it came to work or your family or for help? What were the things that were your priorities? Like you
Yeah.
said, to prioritize, what were those initial priorities?
So initially, just because I'm such a scheduler and planner, I had to throw away the schedule. I had to be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I learned very quickly coming home and trying to be strategic around the schedule, it's not happening, right? Um, so I think for first things first, setting up my village, identifying who's going to be the key players. It's
Mm-hmm.
like a basketball game here. Who's the starting five? Because like my husband, he's such a big help, but obviously he's working outside the home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taking care of things financially. So I had to step into my help in my village and figure out who's going to be the key players and have these conversations with them like, hey, I'm going to be leaning on you, right? For the next couple months. So figuring out who my village is, which is obviously both of our mothers, my mom and my mother-in-law, are really amazing. We probably couldn't accomplish this without them. And just also accepting help and being okay with accepting help. Because I'm a person, I'm definitely a doer. I want to do it myself. And I had to like be okay with delegating, and whether it's doing a Target run for me, like I'll order the drive up. Can you pick it up for me? Like just being okay with asking. And when people say, do you need anything? Yes. um, I think that was the a number one key thing. Also, just for me, because I know it was twins. Like I only have one hand, right? I'm gonna be home with the twins primarily. Utilizing as many baby adaptive equipment as you can, whether it's swings, just because we live in a multi-level home. And it's no way that I'm going to be going back and forth up the stairs to do diaper changes, right? Or to keep them in their crib, except for nap time. So I literally set up shop downstairs. I created an area, in the living room, a diaper changing station. I used the TV stand, loaded it with diapers and wipes and changes of clothes, and also a diaper changing pad. And we use that. We have swings. So I can maneuver and still be able to multitask while caring for them both.
Yeah. You have such an absolutely beautiful and stunning family that if we looked at you at face value, we would say yes, she definitely has it all together. How do you like feel about that, right? When so like if we're looking at like social media or we're looking at whatever, how do you feel when about like portraying that or when other people portray that kind of like balanced like perfect life? Do you think that that's real, or do you think that it's that moment that was real, or do you think that like how do you like genuinely feel about that? Because I know that we get love and hate at Twiniversity, that either we're showing things that are too good or we're showing things that are not good enough. Like honestly, I feel a lot of times that we can't make everybody happy. But in general, people do look at, social, or they watch TV and they have commercials and they see that people have like quote unquote a balanced life. When you were expecting, did any of that influence what you thought a balanced life looked like?
Oh, yes. So I would have to say, um, so no, it's like I said, it's not possible to balance out every single thing at all times. I just want to reflect for a moment. My first child, I feel like I won't say I lost myself, but I kind of dedicated myself to just being a mom and like, and this is my new world, and kind of lost a little bit of my identity. So when I got pregnant with the twins, I promised myself like I'm not going to do that again, even though it's twins and yes, we're a bigger family. I promised myself not to do that. Um, so and I started obviously it's beyond self-care, right? It's a much bigger picture beyond like being giving yourself self-care, just trying to make sure you acknowledge who you are outside of the home and outside of your twins or your family, or you're still being intentional about talking to your husband, and making time. My friends, like, I went through a moment where I didn't even talk to any of my friends for
Yeah.
quite some time. And I reflected, I'm like, this is hard. I can't carry on like this, you know? So,
Yeah.
and coming back to that balance piece, and actually my mentor actually, you know, talked to me and gave me a wake up call. You can't, some days you're going to give things 10%, right? And that's, you have to be okay with it, and your village has to be okay with it. And some days you may give that particular area 90%, right? And that's where the balance comes, right? Eventually, it's not balanced all at once.
So
You know
true.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So to go back to your question, when you see, you know, things, no, it's not perfect. The picture of that moment may have been a perfect moment, but we're back to chaos. We're back to laundry everywhere. We're back to, you know, toys everywhere. And that's another thing I think my children taught me. It's okay for the house to be junky and to go to sleep with dishes in the sink. Like, those things are okay. Because I used to be super anal about, you know, certain things, and my children taught me very quickly, like, it's okay. Yeah, don't be so hard on yourself. Um, yeah, I have to constantly remind myself, don't be hard on yourself. Be kind to yourself, right? This is a lot. You know, you're going through a lot. Your time is limited as a twin mom, so you have
I'm like,
to.
I'm taking so many notes over here you can't even understand. Okay, so I'm going to go back to something. So you said when you had your first child, you definitely lost yourself. And then you were like, I'm going to insist that when the twinnies get here, I'm not going to do that again. Okay.
Right.
How did you do that? Because the thing, truthfully, like, so you could think about this. There's people who are going to have their kids, like their twins, the first round, right? And they are going to lose themselves because I think a lot, I don't think that what you did was anything different than what a lot of people do. And so you do learn from experience. And so what did you say? Like, it had to be more than beyond self-care, which I think is such like a good term because it's so freaking true that it really is. It's so beyond self-care. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
go get all the manicures you want. That doesn't mean that you are that you are yourself. What exactly did you do the second time around to say, okay, I am mindfully going to do XYZ to not lose myself, because it is so much harder if you lose yourself, it's so much harder to come back from that than if you don't have it happen in the first place. And I think this goes with balance, because people are like, oh my gosh, I have to do the dishes, like you said, and I have to do this, that they're worried about those little things. They forget about who they are, what their core is, and how to do it. How did you not have that happen the second time around?
Yeah, and I'm still working on not having it happen. Um, Setting goals, like, just, you know, setting goals and really trying to adhere to working towards what those goals are. Writing it down. Also, just communicating better with my village, letting them
Okay.
know, like, today I'm not okay, or today was a hard day, right? So let's tomorrow, like, let's shoot for a better day. Or, and you know, when you open up communication, like I said, with my first child, it was always, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do it, right?
Yeah.
Now I got twins, reality check. Yeah, you can do only so much. So I think opening up those communication channels to my husband and to my mom and to my mother-in-law, it helped, you know, like, they see you're, oh no, we know you're not superwoman, but you have
Yeah.
to be vocal about what you need help around. And yeah, I think that's setting goals and just constantly fighting for, to be intentional about not losing
Yeah.
myself. Whether it's like calling my best friend every day, that definitely helps. Like, you know, me talking through things with her that I go through on the day to day, or making sure I'm effective at work, even though I'm working from home. Just setting aside time to journal and, you know, to write things down, I think has helped me not lose myself as much as I did the
Yeah.
first go around.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I feel like I'm juggling on so much more than
you're
what I.
still you're still in there, which is so, it's so great to talk to you, because you're in you're out of the hardest time. I think that, the most stressful time is kind of those first 4 months when you
Mhm.
physically healing so much, and
Mhm.
people forget that you're actually recovering from your delivery, that people are like, oh, so when everybody does. It's not what everybody does. Not everybody has twins, and we have a lot more to recover from than the average bear. But
Mhm.
when you're here now, it's 10 months, you have this wonderful family, and I got to ask you specifically, because I know I'm not the only one, because now literally I'm going to pick your brain about everything. You just don't even know what you did to yourself. When you said, like, I'm setting goals, what are those goals? So, like, is it a goal to drink water? Is it a goal, like calling your BFF, I think is so, it's something that people, I want to do like a PSA right now. Your public service announcement is call your best friend every day, because
Mhm.
you're probably going to feel like, what does my best friend need to know? Yesterday was boring. Nothing happened. Like, what am I going to tell? Or why am I going to add more stress to their
It's
lives?
like free therapy.
Yes, it's totally,
Free
totally.
therapy.
It's They will take your insurance. I will almost guarantee it. The copay may be higher in, Tito's and soda. Who knows? But it's that's such an important thing about. And if I want to say, like, one goal that you should have is to create balance, is to call somebody daily, whether
Yes.
it's your bestie, whether it's your sister, whether it's your brother, but like call somebody that's outside of your village that's taking care of the babies, because
Yeah.
those people know everything that's happening because they're right there with you. So
Mhm.
talking to the people in your house, while I'm not saying it's not helpful, it's so nice to have somebody who
Yeah.
doesn't have skin in the current game,
Yeah.
right? This is
Mhm.
it. So when
Absolutely.
you were creating and you're like, I'm going to set goals for myself, I'm not going to lose myself, here's what I'm going to do. What were those goals that you were setting?
One specifically, I know now I'm in Chicago, so the weather's crappy, but going out, I made it a point to make sure we go out every single day before the weather got bad. Even now, sometimes I'm like, let's just go for a drive. Throw the babies in the car and just go for a drive,
Yeah.
whether it's to pick up a Target order or just go through a drive through to get Starbucks. Um, I, I think going for a walk every day. So we did that all the way up until they were about 8 months. That's when the weather kind of got bad. So we kind of stuck hibernating inside. But that was a goal, to make sure every day we go out for a stroller ride and go out for a walk, because it's something that helps the entire household.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even, because my mom and my mother-in-law come here to help support, even to give them a break, because they're here with them just like me while I'm working. And I'm like, all right, let's pack everybody up. We're going to go out for about an hour for a walk, 45 minutes. To my 5-year-old, she loved it, so, and the twins, they loved it too. Something different to see, fresh air. And for me, it was like therapy. I'm taking a break from working and just, running the household, and we're
Yeah.
able to get out. So that was huge. Um, talking to my friends, just trying to go out more, planning, celebrating, going out, engaging in
Mm-hmm.
celebrations such as birthdays. Because, like I said, like, I was off the grid for about 2 years. I didn't do anything.
Yeah. That's
Um,
tough. That's really
mhm.
tough. That's so heavy. And it's so hard to kind of get back into the inner circle if you threw yourself out of it. And so I literally use the term that I'm going into a bunker. And so I'll text people and I will be like, I'm going into a bunker. I will be out on Monday. Please do not call me. I need a minute just to kind of recoup and recover. But when it comes to your friends, a lot of times people think like, oh, I'm not going to bother them because you have so much going on. But what you probably didn't realize is that all the time that you weren't calling them, they were actually really worried about you. And so
Mhm.
we're like, I don't want to call somebody. It's just going to add more stress to their day. In
Exactly.
relation, you're added stress to their day by not calling them because they're thinking the worst, right?
Mhm.
Because we're crazy
Mhm.
people and our minds go to crazy places. So I love that, getting outside, and it's so important. And Siekeia, truthfully, so few people do that. So few people, when they have kids in the very early stages, don't get out there. Like, it's too complicated, it's too stressful. Forget.
So,
And look where you are and where we are. We want to talk about weather. Like, holy smokes, it's bad. And we have people that I'm like, you don't want to go out. You're in Arizona. What are you doing? Like, go out now because it's going to be 147 degrees in July. So get out now. That's
mhm.
such a really, really important thing to do. Now, besides setting goals, you said it's important to set priorities. How did you determine what your priorities were. Because there's the priorities that are literally in front of you, right? Like if something is on fire, the kids are screaming, versus priorities like I have to finish this project at work. How do you
Mhm.
do that and to maintain this semblance of balance that you currently have? How do you figure out what your priorities are?
I would say what definitely helps me nail down what the prior waking up early. So I have to I have to rise early because and I wake up early and everybody else goes to sleep bedtime early. Now that we've got through the whole sleep training thing, which is phenomenal, such a game changer.
Oh
Sleep
yeah.
train, it please, like it was so hard. I didn't do it with child A, but B and C, the twins are sleep trained. They sleep in their cribs on their own through the night. But that definitely helps me have the quietness,
Mm-hmm.
right? Creates time for me to say, okay, what do I need to work on? What didn't I get done today? Do I still have time? If not, like, can I shift it to tomorrow? Um, so that helps me gauge out and pivot out what my priorities are to work through.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, waking up early. Keeping a to-do list. Like I've tried to get away from so many to-do lists, but I still keep one because it keeps me on my toes, right? And as much as I can, especially while like the twins are asleep, and when I wake up early, dealing with things head on. Try not to put off what I can. Try not to put off what I can, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that also helps me stay organized, for sure, and I'm able to nail down priorities that way.
Some things, it sounds so simple, right? Like you could say, don't put off what can be done. But yet, you know that some days that is like a monumental task. When you have those days and you're like, I can't get up early or I can't look at the to do list, how do you motivate yourself to stay on track?
Ooh, that's a good one. Um, and I've told several of my friends this. I have to tap into strength that I think I've never used before as a woman. Like this whole journey of being a mom of three, not
Yeah.
just twin moms, but just I have to frequently tap into strength that I didn't even know I had. Like that, just whether, I meditate and pray, quite a bit, especially in the morning. I just have to be like, oh, like you said, when those days come and you don't want to get up, I have to pray and just, really, be thankful, like, wow, like I'm in a position to even get up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I better get up, or like I said, praying definitely helps me recognize like the strength that I have to use, that I feel like I've never used this. I didn't even realize I was this
Yeah.
strong, mentally. So I think that definitely helps. And to be honest, transparently, those days do happen, and the schedule, I don't follow the schedule, and I'm okay with that. And that it goes back to what I said.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not hard on myself anymore. I have to be nice and be kind to myself because this is a lot. And those, like you said, those rainy days are going to happen where you're not going to want to get out of bed at 5 a.m. and it's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So I just have to be like, it's okay. I got out of bed late. I didn't, but I'm going to pick up where the pieces were left
Yeah.
and we're going to get through this thing. Um,
That's
yeah.
hard to do, though. That's really hard to do, especially if you are, you feel so bad because you're trying to find what that, I keep bringing that word balance is because it's true, because everybody's like searching for it. It's the holy grail of parenting is what the heck does this mean? But there's going to be days where it's totally going to be unbalanced and that your goal is just to try to get a little balanced by the end
Yeah.
of the day. Are you really like, we ever really get back on track 100%? It depends. You have days with teething and you have days where I may have my period and my cramps are killing me and I'm just not, I don't want to go for that walk. It's so hard to keep going when you're like, okay, now I broke the chain, you
And
know?
I want to add to that. I think something that I've learned from my children, and I think this applies to all children, are resilient. They, when I say resilient, like to throw the mom guilt away. Like,
Yeah.
they're not going to remember that you didn't stay on schedule, or that you didn't go for the walk, or that you didn't read the story.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to remember that. As long as they're, the TLC is there, they're loved and cared for, and they're getting nutrients. They're resilient. They can go through things, and when I say things, like, they can miss out on story time, and they're going to be okay, right? Like you said, teething may happen. To just know that I have to always remind myself, this is temporary. It's not a permanent phase. Mm-hmm. This is a temporary phase, right? Because I've been there with the teething, right? And then it's like, oh God, this is bad, and diarrhea everywhere. But I have to just remind myself, this is temporary. Next week, hopefully we won't be going through this, right? Mm-hmm. Or tomorrow, this won't be the case.
I want to move in with you. And I just would like for you to tell me what to do for the rest of my life.
Just be ready to change some diapers.
I'm ready. I got that. With my eyes closed. I got that. I have that. I'm so inspired by your motivation, and you just keep going, which is so fantastic, because there's so many people, even that we talk to on this podcast, that are like, yep, it's a bad day, and sometimes it takes me 3 or 4 days to get it back together. And you're like, nope, I'm going to try to get up early. Maybe I don't. Maybe I do. I'm going to make a list. I'm going to be thankful. I'm going to pray a little bit. I love that you just keep doing it. And do you realize that you're doing that? Like, do you realize?
I don't, and I think until you just acknowledge that, I don't even think, I think, I'm telling you, throwing the mom guilt away definitely helped. Like, just not freeing myself of just being guilty about, because I know that's one thing I do know for sure. I'm a damn good mom, right? So I just had to just put that to the side and just not allow anybody's opinions, right? Or the guilt, because mom guilt is a thing. It is. But it's
God, yeah. Oof,
but
horrible.
And I went through it with my first child, and I kind of let it suck me in. But I think I'm in a place in my life, I desire peace. So I need things to run smoothly and flow, or I won't be mentally capable of running a household with twins and with all kids under 5 years old. If I'm not okay mentally, I can't conquer.
I'm telling you right now, Siekeia, I'm getting that tattooed on me. That's going to say, I desire peace. And it's going to be
that's a good idea.
Because it's such, if you keep in mind what your goal is, right? So we were talking about setting goals. That's a goal. That's a goal. Your goal is peace. Your goal is peace. It doesn't matter what that means to you, because it could be peace with your partner. It could be peace with wherever you are in life. It could be peace with the car that you're driving, whatever it is that's driving you crazy. Truthfully, like that's my new goal. I'm making a goal as of today. That is what I no longer desire stuff. I literally am just going to desire peace, because with peace, everything else will come.
Yes. And let me be clear. I didn't get here overnight. Like, my pregnancy, I know we didn't touch on that. That pregnancy with the twins almost took me out. So it was such a relief to have. So it's like, it can't get worse than that. So it's like, it's only up from here, because physically and emotionally, like, I literally cried probably every other day during that pregnancy. I delivered almost 7-pound babies each a month early. Yes. They were huge.
Oh my gosh.
That was that almost took me out mentally and physically. So when I bounced back from that and I reflected on my resilience, I'm like, oh, it's only up from here. And peace is the goal.
Yeah. It's really, really true. Peace is totally our goal. And I think if that is what you think balance is peace, I think that's an easier way to put it. Mm-hmm. Because by saying, like, is it possible to live a balanced life with twinnies? We should just literally clean the slate and say, is it possible to live a peaceful life with twinnies? And then I guess then we could go into, well, what does peaceful look like? Is peaceful quiet? Because people will go, like, stereotypically, what peace looks like. But what is peace? Is peace you being a good parent and having dishes in the sink? Is that your peace?
Yep.
There's so much that goes into it, and I get so upset for parents that I meet during pregnancy, right? So I have all these wonderful families that we meet in our classes and in person when if I'm out doing events and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And everybody's like, "How do you do it?" And I'm like, I don't literally, I'm telling you right now, Siekeia, I literally gave a keynote speech to a parent of twins state conference all about how to find balance, and the whole moral of the story is it's not possible, stop looking, but let's focus on the little things because it's really
Right.
not. If you
What can
bite off,
contribute?
yeah,
What can
because
contribute to balance? Because you can't get there like that.
totally.
Ever the day to day is not possible to have balance between every single aspect of your life. But what can we do to contribute to that, and what does that
Yes.
successfully look like?
And remember, truthfully, too, that everybody's balance is going to be different every day.
Different.
Because some
Yeah.
days you may have to have more time with work. Sometimes you may have to have more time with your partner. Sometimes you may have
Mm-hmm.
to have more time with yourself. Balance. There is this freaking illusion of balance. It's such a farce. It's like that mom guilt, right? It's like, why are we doing this? Why do we keep going in and we go so hard on ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Holy smoke. And you did it. You did it for 2 years. Your first go around. You
Mm-hmm.
played that game and you came
Yeah.
out and you're like, not today, Satan. This is not happening. This is
Right.
how this is going to go. We're going to start. This is a new day. This is a new opportunity. And you really freaking did it. You
Yeah.
really did it. You should be so proud of yourself. Like, honestly, like, genuinely. And you will hear, like, if you listen to this podcast, you know I don't throw out like a ton of stuff for no reason.
Right.
Like, I could recognize where like props are due. Like, I think it's so great that you did that. And it's really your experience of that first go around that was like, okay, this is now my do-over, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get to do this all over again. And
Yep.
also, what you have to remember too is that all eyes are upon you, right? As a parent, all
Mm-hmm.
eyes are upon you, whether it's your kids, your partner, your village, all eyes are upon you. And as much as, you could live in 1942 and your partner could say that, they're the head of the household and go old school, like this is some kind of weird black and white movie, we all really know the truth. We really know what's happening
Mm-hmm.
here. We
Yeah.
know, that we are the people that are, taking charge of our families and our homes. And, not everybody. I will say that we have plenty of
Right.
stay-at-home dads that are within Twiniversity that are leading the charge. But ultimately, there's usually one partner that knows where all the bodies are buried, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one that's kind of like, okay, they're coming along for the ride, typically,
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
and you're really doing it. And I love it. I mean, I honestly, like, literally, I have 3 pages of notes here. Where do you want me to start?
I
Where do
think
you want me to start?
a big takeaway is, and you helped me identify this, everybody's piece is going to look different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right. And your piece will be unique to what you need it to be. So you and our piece may be different, like you said. So thank you for bringing that out.
No, it's really true. And I think that you did the same thing because while everybody is striving for, okay, my work life balance, that's not a thing. That is not a thing. That is not a realistic thing. And
Nope.
when we first had the 20s, my husband worked at a very like pinky up law firm in New York City. And it's so funny because Siekeia, when I met my husband, he worked at a gas station. So like I'm going to tell you right now, like that evolution of that man from the time that we met, I don't know if I just inspire excellence in people. I'm not
Okay.
really exactly sure, but it was so interesting because he like went to a particular place that's like we have a great work life balance. And so, of course, you kind of drink the Kool-Aid and you're like, all right, we're a new family.
Okay. Okay.
Let's, we're into this. I'm going to tell you truthfully, Siekeia, I never saw that man. I never saw, if I saw him for 9 hours a week, that was a lot.
And
And
that's
so,
and I can identify that. That's a whole other topic we probably can get on. I can identify because same situation, and it's that's hard. That's
Yes.
hard.
But I'm not even saying about me. I don't even care. I dealt with it, right? Because you deal with what's in front of you. You prioritize with what's in front of you. Thank God I had my village. I did it. But the funny thing is that that particular place was like, we pride ourselves on having a work-life balance, which is BS
Mm-hmm.
because they
Mm-hmm.
thought that that was a work-life balance, which goes to kind of the thing that we were just saying, that everybody's balance, everybody's peace is going to be different.
Different.
Because to
Yeah.
those people, they were totally content with seeing their family for that amount of time each week. And I
Mm-hmm.
will tell you, and I will say we because I felt like I was working there too, because I was doing my own shift at home. We did not last for a long time. And my hubs has not been a lawyer for a very,
Really?
very long time. Yeah, because we knew that our priorities were being together and being a family and raising our
Wow.
family together. And so
Mm-hmm.
you have to make these big decisions and be like, okay, you just went to 700 years of school. We're, $19 million in debt for school. But at the end of the day, what are you going to say to yourself? And so, Siekeia,
Wow.
when I was a teenager, I worked, or maybe early 20s, I worked at a hotel in New York City. And so I worked at front desk. I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do yet. Don't even ask what my degree is. It's like literally nothing related to twin stuff. It's comical. It's comical if you ever knew the behind the music of Natalie Diaz. But I was working at this hotel, and I loved it, and I loved all the people that came in, and you'd have celebrities, and you had politicians, and we had all the female players of the New York WNBA team stayed there, and
Hmm.
it was so much fun. And there was this one woman, her name was Aileen, and she worked the graveyard shift. And she would come in every night, and I would often, as the low man on the totem pole, would be leaving at midnight. And I would say to her, like, how do you do this? Like, what the heck are you doing that you work from midnight to 7 a.m. is what
Hmm.
her shift was. And I was like, how do you do that with no break? No break, no nothing. She just worked
Wow.
straight because she left earlier. So that was the way that the hotel worked because nobody's there. And really, overnight, you just have to, you do whatever, the auditing or whatever it was called. And I remember after a while, I looked like I thought it was just nuts because I'm like, she's missing all the fun. Because if you're going to work at a hotel, like part of it is like meeting all the people that come in and be like,
Right.
oh my God,
Right.
look who brought in this person. Oh, we can't talk about it, but it's so much fun. It was so great. And I said to her like one day, like, why do you do this? Like you're missing like everything. We had such a great night tonight. And she's like, nope. She's like, I always say every single day when it is my end of my days and I'm looking back on my life, I'm never going to say I wish I worked more.
Hmm.
She's like I'm always going to reflect on the time I spent with my family,
Hmm.
the things that I did for my community and the things that I did for myself. And I will tell you that her saying that changed the course of my life. And she probably
Wow.
doesn't know, I wouldn't even know how to find her if I
Right.
wanted to
Good.
at this
Wow.
point. But it was one day and that one moment, and it was just one conversation. That's all that it
Good.
was. And
Mhm.
I have been kind of living to that. And so whenever people talk about work life balance, I
Mhm.
always think about her because
Wow.
I would have said that is ridiculously unbalanced. How do you stay up all night? And it's a very accounting heavy job and deal with numbers. And her theory was my life is totally balanced because I'm there when my kids come home from school and we
Right.
get to have dinner as a
I'm able to be
family.
present at home.
Yes. And so it's one of those things that I have always thought about. And it's why my husband left a fancy pantsy job and then we went back to,
Wow.
the regular grind because at the end, right, are we going to say, like, I wish I had more money? I don't think anybody who has money ever says they wish that, like, at the end of their life, that they're saying to themselves, I wish I had more.
You look
So
back, yeah.
I think, at it, as far as this whole thing goes, and I know we could talk forever and I feel so bad keeping you, but it's such an important topic. And
Yeah.
it's funny how when you and I started talking, I was like, well, what are we going to do? Like, where are we going to go with this? And look how it sent
We ended.
itself. Yeah,
Right.
it totally sent itself into everything because everybody's
Exactly.
balance is going to be different. And
Different.
if you are trying to grab, a buck that not saying that you don't grab what you don't need, you take care of your family, but what are we doing here? What's the
Hmm.
big balance? What's the big priorities at the end of the day?
Yeah.
When you're putting your head on the pillow at the end of the night, forget about the end of your days. What are you going to say to yourself that was the highlights of that day? And
Hmm.
that's what we have to strive for. It's
Yeah.
that peace and it's that balance. And honestly, like Siekeia, you literally, boom, you hit the nail on the head, and you are literally my new idol. And
Well, Natalie, thank you for sharing that story because it really resonated because my husband just similar went through a similar transition with work, trying to because he's the type of dad he wants to be present, and he had to make some transitions at work. Right, he had a pretty high, a big shot role, I should say, and then he had to recently come to the drawing board and make a decision, to sacrifice and change that position so he can be present at home because that's his piece. His piece
mhm.
is to be present, a
Mhm.
present dad. He doesn't want to be come home and everybody sleep.
Yeah.
So
It really is. And there's people, his peers, my husband's peers, that probably at one time were like, that is so dumb of you. Like,
mm-hmm,
why would you do that? But it
mm-hmm,
goes back to me thinking about Aileen. That's so dumb of you. Why are you working the overnight shift when that's her piece? And you don't realize it when you're, a teenager, early 20s. I really can't remember how old I was, but I was young. So
mm-hmm.
maybe 20, maybe 21 at best. But I
It's,
just think it's unbelievable how, we could learn so much from people if we just listen. And I
yeah,
think if people are listening to this today, their big takeaway should be don't look at anybody else. Figure out what your piece is, figure out what your balance is, and then just strive for that.
work with
Not
that.
what the typical person's doing or what that person has
What
or
you
what
see
that
on
person
social
has.
media,
Yeah,
or yeah, absolutely.
it's tough. Honestly, Siekeia, thank you. I feel bad because I know this was like time that you would have probably talked
No, this is
to your
great time.
bestie.
Time well spent.
Okay.
Like I said,
So
I needed this. We can continue this conversation later outside the podcast.
Oh, I love it. I honestly, I would be honored, and I think it's so great. And the fun part is that by you learning all of this now, it's only going to benefit your entire family. So
Yeah,
like the sooner that you could figure out that balance is an illusion and that we're striving for peace, that the better everybody in your kids, your family, your village, your community, everybody will benefit from it. Because if you're not striving for the impossible or something that it's not attainable, everybody will benefit. So honestly, Siekeia, thank you so much for playing with me today. I really
you,
appreciate it.
Natalie. Yes, thank you. You striving for
Please.
peace. When I get my tattoo, I'll send you a picture.
Yes, I really do. I literally was looking as you were talking, and I'm like, where would I put it? Where would I put it so that I could see it? Because I don't know, but now I have to find it.
This was great. Very good dialogue. I appreciate this. Looking forward to continuing our conversation at a later time.
Oh, me too. All right, guys. I know you have to go back to doing whatever you're doing. That's certainly not as much fun as this, but that's what reality is. And you have to find your balance, and your balance can't be listening to the Twiniversity podcast all day. Although technically it can, because we could be in your ear, and then you could go about your day going for your walk, like
Go for a
Siekeia just
walk.
said.
Yay!
Yes, you could put me on in the car. I will always tell you if I say a bad word. There will be an E on the thing, knowing that your twinnies may be in the car, and I don't want them to hear me say cursing words. So yes, guys. And if you need anything from us now and always, you know that you could always email me at community@twiniversity.com or legit drop us a direct message on any social platform. We're so easy to find. That is just part of our charm. And if you like this podcast and this wasn't the worst 17 hours that you've spent today, make sure that you give us a thumbs up and you like and subscribe, like all the kids
Yes.
say on the YouTube channels. And until later, guys, thanks for listening and see you later,
Thank
alligators.
you.